Hi guys, so welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be talking about my top 5 favourite palettes. So I was asked in just one of the comments on one of my videos to do my top ranking of the Jeffree Star palettes in order, but I don't have all of his palettes. I think I've got about 9 of them and he's got 22 or 23 palettes, so I didn't think that that was much of a video just because I didn't have, well, even half of them. So I thought, why don't I just do sort of my top 5 favourite palettes and talk about those. So landing in at number 5, I've got the Melt Cosmetics Gemini palette. So this is the OG sort of original version of it. I know they brought it back and they've sort of upgraded the packaging, but quite a few years ago Laura made her palette, which is this one, and then Dana, she did her version, which was more like pinks and things like that. And I really like this one because it was a bit more grungy, and her sort of carton has got sort of photos of her life on, which I think is really cute, and I've kept it. So this is the palette just here. I have done a look with it on my channel already. Oh, so it's just here. It is quite messy. The shimmer shadows, they can be a little bit crumbly, but as you can see here, you've got some really nice sort of khaki greens, really grungy, and then you've got some nice like rusty sort of brown shades, and almost like pukey yellow shades. I do really like using those, and the shimmers, oh, they are so nice. So I will just swatch them for you. So they're just here. So this one here is called Gemini. This one here is called Goals. They are really, really pretty. I'll just put them on the back of my hand. Just here. Really, really nice, really reflective, and really, really nice to put on. In the pan though, they can crumble. Like, I was closing the palette and I accidentally sort of caught this in like the corner just in here, and it dug out so much. I've got a little well here, but I mean, other than that, I absolutely love this palette. This is just the perfect type of grunge palette for me, just because it's got, you know, it's got a black in, which I do quite like to use to sort of darken up these shades and make it really like smoky. I really, really like the khaki colours, and I love this colour here. It's like a really sort of pukey colour. And of course this one here reminds me of the MAC Cosmetics, I think it was Uninterrupted Shadow, which I used to use all the time when I was in college. So yeah, I do really, really like the Melt Cosmetics formula. It was a toss-up between this palette and the Rust Stack from them, for which would sort of hit my top 5. But this one just had to take the spot really, just because it has the green shades that I really like, and the shimmers are really, really nice. I do need to do a tutorial using just sort of this portion of the palette, because I do have a tutorial up on my YouTube already where I've done a spotlight eye using just this section here. Number 4, we have a Jeffree Star palette. I mean, spoiler alert, 3 of the palettes in here are Jeffree Star, just because I absolutely adore his formula. And I mean, I feel like I picked my top 5 quite quickly because I knew what I was looking for. But it was quite hard to choose between some of the Jeffree Star palettes. But in number 4, I picked up Jawbreaker. So I only really got this palette last year for my birthday, so it's about a year old for me. But I just really, really like the colours in here. So I've got brights in here, I've got pastels, I've got really nice shimmers. Like, I love the shimmers in this palette. I know in some of his palettes like Bloodlust, the shimmers were very hit and miss and quite hard to work with. But I mean, I've used this one, this one, this one, and this one so far, and sort of I use this one on like the inner corner and the brow bone, but they go on so nicely. I love how smooth they are. I'll just sort of swatch them now. let's do the pink, and I'll do the purple. So they're just here. Oh, they're just so nice. So we've got pink and purple. So that's them there. They've just gone on so nice, and they look so lovely on the lid. I think I've done a tutorial already using these two. Yes, I think I have. And oh, I have actually used this one as well in my pink tutorial, because I was going to use a shade out of Pink Religion, but I do prefer this shade. I think it's called Bubblegum. No, it's called Cotton Candy. So I don't really own many pastel sort of eyeshadows or palettes. I've got the Dose of Colours Ice Cream palette, which has got like a pastel pink and a pastel purple, I think. But I really like the look of sort of these pastels here. I do really like this light blue as well. And Soaked is really nice as well. Sort of these to make like a blue look. I mean, I do use Blue Blood because I kind of forget that the blues are in this palette, just because I love Blue Blood and Star Ranch together, because that Grand Prismatic shade is just beautiful. But yeah, this Cherry Wet is such a nice shade as well. Like, I just really like the colours in here, and I do need to use it more. Yeah, I really like all the formulas in this palette compared to some of his other palettes. Like I said, Bloodlust, some of the shadows in there don't really perform, because you've got sort of your brights, you've got your pastels, you've got a really nice array of shimmers, and then you do have some sort of like a transition shade here and a dark brown. So I really like this palette. So in at number 3, it isn't really like an eyeshadow palette as much. It's my Kit Co sort of double palette that I've made up myself. And these are filled with Melchior and Olivia Bell Beauty shadows. So I'll just show you here, just like that. So I wanted something that was quite sort of rainbow, because I went on a course with Laura Hitchin, and she had a palette like this, and she just had it filled with the Melchior and Olivia Bell Beauty shadows, and I just loved them, and they're so inexpensive that I just, you know, I got home and I just ordered them and put them straight into this palette, and I love them. I mean, the greens are obviously my favourite just here. I do have a couple of tutorials on my channel where I have gone into this palette and used specifically sort of this row at the top here. So these two are Olivia Bell Beauty. They're called Mint, and I think this one's called Sweet Pea. And then this one here I think is called Alien from Melchior, but I just love the way these three blend, and these two in particular are so bright. I love them. So I wanted to include this in my top 5 as a palette, because it is sort of a palette I've made myself. And it's colours that I sort of always go back to. Like, whenever I want to use greens, I will pick up those 3 shadows in particular to do a bright green look. I mean, I did really want to get the, I think it's called Blood Money from Jeffree Star, because that's his like green palette. But I already own Alien, and a lot of the shadows are very similar. Like, my friend Sadie did a video where one of her eyes was using Alien and the other was using Blood Money. Blood Money? Yeah, I think it's Blood Money. And they looked similar, and I thought, well, I don't need both. So that's sort of like turned into my little go-to green palette, as well as some of the shades in Alien. But I'll just swatch them for you. So I've got some of my greens, and then I've got a blue. That one, the bright one, green one, and the dark. So they're just here. So these two in particular, I just love them so much. They're so bright. But I do really like this formula. It's very inexpensive to buy these single shadows from Melchior and Olivia Bell Beauty. I do think that they're worth it if you would like to create your own sort of palette with your own shades in. So in at number 2, I mean, it just had to be, it's Jeffree Star Blue Blood. I absolutely adore this palette. It is my go-to palette when I want to use blue eyeshadow, and of course I've used it on my eyes today. I just think that it's absolutely gorgeous. I love that it comes in sort of the trunk. It feels very secure. I love the packaging. I just love everything about it. So when this first came out, I didn't think I needed it because I didn't really use blue that much. I mean, I had just started a makeup job on counter where I had to wear quite natural makeup, and I don't know, I just wasn't, at that time I wasn't really into colour, so I just sort of avoided the palette, and then I think I bought it not last year, the year before, for like Black Friday, when it went quite cheap on Beauty Bay, and I have never looked back. It is so nice. I do use particular shadows in the palette, so I'll use sort of this one as my starter, as my darkest shade. I'll hop into Blue Monday because I do really like the way these two contrast, because this is so bright. So I did used to use Blue Blood as my next shade to sort of blend out the Blue Monday, but I hop into my Grand Prismatic shade from Star Ranch, which I've used. This is quite the bright blue around the outside. That's stunning with this palette. I wish that eyeshadow was in here. And then sort of I hop between either I'm Cold or Minty to blend out that, and it's just my perfect blue blend. The only thing I will say about this palette is this shade here called Ocean Ice. I have to try so hard to pack this on my lid so that it actually looks right. I've used glitter glue, I have used setting spray, I have used different brushes, I've tried different techniques, and I mean it's quite hard to get on your eye. I think that it must be a pressed glitter, so I do have to work quite hard when I do use this shade, but I have recently got the Made by Mitchell Head in the Clouds palette and the Star Ranch palette, where they've got shades quite similar to this that I would use over this one here, just because I've got them and I prefer them. But speaking for the rest of the shades in the palette, I mean, this shade here is such a nice green, and I like that he's got some neutrals in here as well, and I really like to use this shade Cullinan for like my inner corner and brow bone. So I'll just swatch a couple for you. So I'll just show you Ocean Ice. I mean, it doesn't really pick up that glitter, and I mean it actually swatches quite nicely, but it doesn't. I find it quite hard to put on the lid. I've got some more of the shades just here, so we've got the Blue Monday and that shade Flourishing here, and then this one is called Celebrity Skin. So I do really like this as a nice sort of transition colour as well. So I will admit there are actually shadows in here that I haven't touched, like Crystal Flesh and Untouchable. I don't think I've gone into Cremated or Power, but the rest of them I do really like. I think it's such a nice palette, and the shadows just blend together so well, because you can create something quite dark and smoky, or you can go really bright. So I am really impressed with this palette, and of course every time I've done a blue look on my channel I've picked up this palette, so it was of course going to be in my top 5. Okay, so I thought long and hard for what would take the top spot for me, and I just had to think, you know, what looks do I like to do most of the time? what's my go-to look? What do I use when I want to go out on like a date night, night out, and of course like the formula, the shade range, and I knew that my top spot was going to be a neutral palette, just because I love using like glittery pigments or doing like a matte sort of dark smoky eye, things like that. You can just be, you can do so many different looks with a neutral palette, and pair it with so many different colours as well. Like you could do a pop of colour. So my top neutral palette, and I don't think that this will be a shock because it has been shown on my channel quite a lot, and that is the Jeffree Star Orgy palette. It is just such a gorgeous neutral palette. It has got every shade that you need, and I could use this on so many different skin tones. I mean, I could see where he was going with the palette, where he wanted this to be all matte, and then he had the mini orgy, which had the sort of the shimmers. But I would have taken sort of a few of these shades out, which I think are quite similar, and I would have put a row in the middle of really nice sort of shimmery shades to go with it, because this would just be chef's kiss if it had that row. But I mean, it's still my top neutral palette for sure, just because of the shade range, of the way that they blend. I just think that they are so nice, and I love when a palette's got a white and a black in it as well. I can be warm, I can be cool with this palette. I think it's stunning. I do think it retails for about £59, but to me, I use it so much that I just thought that it was worth it. And when I bought it off my friend for £40 because she already had one and she got this in a mystery box. But I am so happy that I bought it, because I was tossing it up in my head as to whether I needed it, and I 100% needed it. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love the shades. I mean, these two here, Money Shot and Craven Chocolate, are my favourites. I love the way they sort of blend. And then I do really like this one here called Blowout. It is a really nice like peachy transition shade. It kind of reminds me of a lighter sort of shade of the Orange Soda from Anastasia Beverly Hills that everybody was obsessed with years and years ago. So yeah, I can use this palette to create a matte smoky eye. I can use it to create cool tone, warm tone. It can just be sort of shadows that I use in the crease and smoke out on my lower lash line to put a shimmer shadow on top, a pigment, maybe a pop of colour. I love this palette so much, and when I know that I want to use browns, I just pick it up straight away. I have got other neutrals that I do love, but this one just takes the top spot for me, and I just knew that it was going to be my number one. I mean, as soon as I knew that I was picking my top 5 palettes, that was straight in the number one pile for me, just because I am a bit of a neutral queen. I wouldn't really wear something like this out. I mean, just because I have sort of friends and family who don't wear a lot of makeup, so I feel like I look very OTT next to them. So that's where sort of this palette comes in anyway, just because I can do something so effortless but still look, well, effortless really. By using this, I can still look put together without using that much makeup. So yeah, I adore it, and if I was still doing freelance, this would come with me everywhere. That's it guys, that's my top 5 favourite palettes. I mean, they are subject to change because there are so many new launches coming out, like Jeffree Star's come out with Beauty Killer 2, Norvina's come out with their number 6 palette, which looks amazing. I mean, that may be on my birthday list, so this could all change in a couple of months. But yeah, I wanted to film this sort of video just because there might be some eyeshadow palettes out there that you're sort of tossing up in your head as to whether you want to spend that money on. and these are the ones that I'm glad that I did spend my money on, because I use them so much and I just love the formula, the colours, etc, etc. Let me know below what your top 5 palettes would be. I'd love to know, because I do feel like I need to add more eyeshadow palettes to my collection. Not that I'm getting bored, but I feel like I need some more palettes that are really going to give me more inspiration for looks for sort of YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and things, because there are days when I come to the Friday and I think, right, I'm going to film tomorrow and I don't really know what I want to do. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!